Well, hello.
Hello. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Class with Young Screenwriters. I'm Alexie, and this is Adam, and we are an online resource and community for up and coming screenwriters. And today, we are honing in on a really specific part of Act 3, the last act of your screenplay, which is in the jargon known as the resolution. More specifically, we're focusing on that ending scene, the last scene that you're going to leave your audience with. And, naturally, that's going to expand to earning that scene. But that's the focus of today, is writing that last scene in your screenplay, which I'm very excited about.
And sort of, we're going to discuss, different uses of a resolution scene, when it's too little, when it's too much, and sort of maybe what you should aspire to. Like, I think I can think of a lot of movies that overstay their welcome and end too many times. And I can think of a lot of movies that earn that extra space. And I can think of, or a few movies, and I can think of movies that end too abruptly and don't give the audience a sense of resolution, a sense of breath. So I would describe what the scene or sequence of scenes we're talking about as the moments after the final fight, when the conflict of the movie is resolved. So it's the post tension. It's the release of tension in your movie. It's the moments where we get to sit with the characters after the plot is finished, after the conflict is over. And some movies opt to show it. Most movies, I think, opt to show us. They do the classic Joseph Campbell thing of returning back to the normal world of the characters, but having changed with the inner need. How is the world different since the beginning of the story? Is the classic sort of mode and function of that scene. And I think a lot of people fuck up the ends of their screenplays.
Well, they're hard. It's weird because you've been pouring so much into this thing, and now you have to decide where are you going to leave it, right? And it's only one little bullet, but this is the what you leave your audience with. And so I think it's really easy to overlook because a lot of your story work is done, but it's just that moment of giving people a moment to sit with everything that just happened. And have like that little bit of extra closure. So this is the Tentpole Document, and I just wanted to show specifically what we're talking about. So this is Act 3. You've already done the whole final fight, ultimate test, all is lost. You've had all that really, really intense emotional stuff happen. You have an unexpected success, and then now they've done it. They've overcome their flaw and achieved their inner need. May or may not have actually got their objective, but they're a changed person at the end of this final fight. And in the resolution, it's typically a moment for us to see, the way that I'm thinking about it right now anyway, is it's the way for us to see them settling in to this new version of who they are, giving us a beat to show them not quite in that intense traumatic moment necessarily, but them just getting like 1 second to be with the new version of themselves.
I would also say this is scenes in this. A lot of this is one of the few places in your screenplay where you can have scenes without tension, scenes without significant conflict.
Yep, for sure. I'm gonna post a link in case you want to check out. I mean, it's just our Tentpole document that we reference all the time, but just in case that's helpful to follow along. I guess I wanted to jump into an example that I know is one of John's favorites, and I think is a good example. It is from Up. Let me share that link with you all too, in case you want to. So, if you are unfamiliar, Up is the Pixar movie about the old man who wants to put balloons on his house and fly to Paradise Falls. It was something that he and his wife had planned to do, and she died before they got to do it, and now he wants to go. Little does he know, this little Boy Scout kid, Russell, is stuck on his porch when his house takes off. So now we have these two characters who he doesn't like the kid. He's grumpy. He's a curmudgeon. They have to try to go to Paradise Falls together. So that's the gist of the Pixar movie. But the whole thing really is that the grandpa doesn't like this kid, right? Like that's a lot of his inner journey, is that he ends up accepting this Russell into his life and becoming sort of a father figure to him. And so this is the final scene, and they actually, I think that they cut a little bit of this, but I wanted to read it anyway. Do you want to be Carl?
Sure.
And Doug. So I'll say what's changed after this, but all right. This is on page 99 and 100. It's the last scene of the movie. Exterior, curb outside Fenton's ice cream parlor. Day. Carl and Russell sit on the curb, licking an ice cream cone. Russell has chocolate and Carl has butter brickle. Cars pass. Blue one.
Red one. Gray one. Red one.
Russell giggles. That's a bike.
It's red, isn't it?
Mr. Fredrickson, you're cheating.
No, I'm not. Red one.
That's fire hydrant. They laugh.
Maybe I need new glasses.
Overhead, Muntz's dirigible hot air balloon is parked. Its ladder in the handicapped parking spot. Dissolve 2. Exterior, Paradise Falls. Afternoon. On top of Paradise Falls sits Carl's house, just as Ellie imagined it. And scene. So this, I will say that was a good joke about Doug saying gray one. That was pretty funny. That did not make it into it. In the actual ending of Up, it is just Russell and Carl sitting on the curb. And we're slowly panning back as they're just naming cars that go by. Just naming what color cars they see. And that's the ending. It's just pulling back away from them.
We meet Carl, or not, I don't exactly remember the moment we meet Carl, but in the first 15 pages, he is definitely in that same place, but without a relationship with Russell and Doug, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of the full circle, kind of Joseph Campbell. We meet him in his normal world, which is he's alone and he's miserable in his life. He's a curmudgeon who just looks at the world, but with skepticism and cynicism. And now at the end, we've returned to the place we first met him, but this time he has companionship and friendship and love. And the scene kind of proves that. It's not, if they were, I don't know if they were outside the ice cream parlor, but the point is they returned back to their hometown, but they are changed.
They're sitting on the curb together. It's giving the audience and Carl a moment to enjoy the fact that he's overcome his flaw and settle into their new normal life of being little buds who go eat ice cream.
It's important that this is a scene that would have been absolutely impossible without the internet. Like, it can't just be, the major conflict is resolved. It has to be, you've proved transformation and change, because that's how the emotion comes from. Like, the best endings feel inevitable and deeply connected to character, right? Like, I'm thinking of the final scenes of Spirited Away, where she returns to the car. She returns to her parents, who don't remember anything, and they come back to the car, and it's covered with branches and tree stuff. I just said tree shit. It's covered with tree. Like, time has passed, and they're like, "What's going on?" And they ask her, "Are you still nervous about going to school?" And she says, "No." And she looks back, but melancholy. Like, with the first time she looks into the tunnel, she's super afraid at the beginning of the movie and like doesn't want to go down it. Now she looks at it kind of familiarly, like, I've conquered this. Like, that's a version of an ending that's very effective, and the reason it works is it's completely tied to flaw, interneed, character. The scene, the choice of the last scene should be proving the transformation, but in a way that's like, it should always be low stakes, I think. Right? There cannot be stakes in the final scene. It's like the final relief. It's like the breath of relief.
Yep, here it is. So this is a script that I can share with you.
This is not the script that Ghibli produced, obviously, because they don't use scripts. But
this was a fan-made script that I think does a really good job at helping us understand what's going on. I still think it's useful for reference. And I mean, they hit the page count right and everything, but this is the final scene. This is what happens in the final scene and is definitely what's said. But again, we don't know that the narrative description is written this way. But this is the final scene of Spirited Away right here.
I just already went through it, but the idea is, I think I can handle it. That's the main opposite point. Emotionally from her being afraid of going down the tunnel. She's coming back from it, having conquered it. It's good. It's good stuff.
It is good stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things about like, you're not scared, are you? Don't be afraid. Everything's going to be okay. The parents are comforting her now, right? Yeah. She went on this whole adventure to save them that they don't remember, and they're comforting her. And so her big moment is, I think I can handle it, right?
I also think,
I was saying she was scared of a big part of her transformation was, if I'm remembering right, it at least manifested in the fact that she was really sad about moving to a new place, and like she was feeling kind of scared and overwhelmed. And now she knows that she can handle it. And it also had a lot to do with like her name and what it meant to be her and her parents and things like that. But the main way that the flaw was represented was in her hesitation to go to this new place on her own, and then now she knows that she can handle it.
Another thing I want to bring up in this movie is this. I don't think this scene alone is the resolution. The scene before it is also part of it. Like, I think there are two scenes. It's like a sequence of scenes. The scene where Haku, after she guesses which of the pigs is her parents, which is the final fight, she has to walk without turning around, and it's not in the scene because Haku says if you turn around, you can't go back. But that scene doesn't play dramatically. It plays like she's saying goodbye and she's releasing. It's not a dramatic scene. It's dramatic in the sense of like, oh, we're getting release, but there's a very cathartic, like, oh my God, we feel like the movie's ending. She's finally going back home. That scene and she's saying goodbye to Haku. It's this scene is and the parent scene. If we didn't get either one of them, it would have felt like too little. Like we needed to wrap up her relationship with Haku, and then we needed to return to her parents.
So I wanted to go back to Up real quick because I want to show you where we could have ended. Right? So they're in the dirigible blimp cockpit, and they are wearing some gloves. They're flying back, basically, as we see what's happening. Muntz's dogs are there, barking into the sunset. They're leaving. That could have been it, in theory. Like, we've already overcome the flaws. We've done the journey. And then there's just these, basically, nearly 3 more pages, which is all it really takes to carry the story home. We have that scene that John loves where Russell's getting one of his scout badges, and he is there without his dad or his parents. He's not there with parents, and he's alone. But then we see Carl go up and stand in for him, and not only that, but he gives Russell his late wife's little grape soda pin as one of his badges. So it's a really touching moment. And then we have that final scene of them in their new life now, just calling out cars as they go by. So it's this little beat where technically, you could have ended right when the action ended, 3 pages before, but just giving us a little bit more to kind of savor this change with the audience. I think it elevates it so much. It makes it so much better.
Like, imagine Toy Story without the final if it ended when they were all in the car driving off to Andy's new home, rather than actually seeing the new status quo of Buzz and Woody all like living together in Andy's new home.
For sure.
Like, that helps the scene a lot. Another thing I want to add about is there are, for example, of some movies that end that really cut too abruptly. I think Hayao Miyazaki is really guilty of this in his other movies. I think Spirited Away is one of the few examples where it's sort of like, oh, we actually get the ending. But I remember watching Kiki's Delivery Service, and like not even like 60 seconds after the final fight, they just rush to the ending. And you want to see these characters hang out and spend time together, but it just immediately cuts off. And I feel like that movie could have benefited from just seeing the characters hang out a little bit, like enjoy life together, you know. He kind of cheats it by showing them all hanging out in the ending credit sequence, but it's not, I don't know. I feel like I want to see,
like on the roof, right? They're like, oh, watching the sunset or something. Yeah,
very briefly. Like,
that used to be my favorite movie ever growing up. Really? I loved that movie.
It's a great movie.
Yeah,
it's great. Another example I shared with you is The Matrix. I think has a great resolution scene. Sorry, spoilers for people who haven't seen it, but when we first start the movie starts with a line of code, and it's very clearly like it's actually showing the code of the Matrix and voices sort of like monitoring what's happening. And they're looking at Neo, and they're talking about Neo, obviously. And the final scene is a reflection of this scene, but with Neo in complete control and awareness. And he stops the program, and we have this badass shot of him telling the machines that he's going to fuck their shit up, and he flies. It's great. And we don't really, because this is the only little tease we get of what the new world might happen. I would have to read the whole monologue, but basically, you know, close in on computer screen, as in the opening, the cursor beating steadily, waiting. The phone begins to ring. It is answered, and the screen fills with the trace program. After a long beat, we recognize Neo's voice, and it's basically a scene without showing Neo having new adventures and fucking the machine world up with his new powers. It's him saying his intention.
I think it'd be good to read this.
Yeah, sure. Hi. Okay. You can do narrative description. Hi, it's me. I know you're out there. I can feel you now.
We close in on the racing columns of numbers shimmering across the screen.
Imagine you can also feel me.
The numbers begin to lock into place.
You don't have to search for me anymore. I'm done running, done hiding. Whether it's done fighting, I suppose, is up to you.
We glide in towards the screen.
I believe deep down we want this world to change. I believe the Matrix can become our cage or can become our crystal. This is the script, not the final movie. That's what you help me understand. That to be free, you cannot change your cage. You have to change yourself.
We dive through the numbers, surging up through the darkness, sucked towards a tight constellation of stars.
When I used to look out at this world, I could see all its edges, its boundaries, its rules and controls, its leaders and laws. But now I see another world, a different world where all things are possible, a world of hope, of peace.
We realize that the constellation is actually the holes in the mouthpiece of a phone, seen from inside.
I can't tell you how to get there, but I do know if I can free your mind, you'll find the way.
Exterior, street, phone booth. We shoot through the holes as Neo hangs up the phone.
So in the movie, well, here's what's interesting. The difference between what they did in the movie. Oh, yeah.
There's a little more. He steps out of the phone and slides on a pair of sunglasses. He looks up as we rise, higher and higher until the city is miles below. After a moment, Neo blasts by us. His long black coat billows like a black leather cape as he flies faster than a speeding bullet.
So the interesting change, the change from the final movie in the dialogue, because the scene's the same, is that in this, he's talking to the people who are stuck in the Matrix, sort of, and the system of the Matrix. Whereas in the movie, he's very clearly just talking to the AI and being like, you want to control people. I'm going to show you a world without boundaries and rules. Mm-hmm. Get ready, basically. Slight distinction, but it's different. But this shows him in mastery, and it teases at his powers by like surprising you, like, oh wait, he can fly now, is the last moment. Like he's never flown in the entire movie. It's just this last shot. It gives you the sense of like, oh my God, wait, what else can he do? I guess it's sort of, the whole thing is about making the impossible possible if you believe it. And it just sort of proves that his whole thing is in the story is there is no spoon. There's this kid who shows him a spoon. Like if you can become the spoon, you can bend it, because you can realize the truth that there is no spoon. It's all just in your mind. So the whole thing is like, to do the impossible, you have to believe that you are like an extension of anything and anything's possible. That was my word vomit. Apologies. But
No,
the fact that he's doing something that is so impossible at the last moment proves that he has mastery.
I'll pull up this question from Jan. What is the thought process that gets you to the point of figuring out what the last resolution should look like? How do you figure out what is too much or too little? So I would say that in a lot of these examples, actually, the drafts that got approved, the drafts that we're looking at, are longer than what actually ends up in the movie. And I think that that's fairly common, is that, you know, you do your best with this, and then probably what you write is going to get shortened. So in that sense, I think I would aim for somewhere between probably like 2 to 3 pages. So 2 to 3 minutes of giving us something after the final fight. After the final fight is completely done, giving us 2 to 3 more pages at least, where we get to enjoy the new normal. And again, this is not a hard and fast rule. And things like Marvel stuff, a lot of times you'll end with like the next thing. It's like, wow, we got the Stone of Destiny, but now what about that? And then cut off, you know. But that's kind of more of a series thing, like where you know there's going to be sequels. In general, I think it's about thinking like, what is your character's life gonna be now? Like what does them overcoming that flaw mean to them? Right? Yeah. And I think it's just giving us a moment to breathe with their transformation. So I would specifically really focus in on what flaw did they overcome, and now that they've achieved their inner need, what is a way that they can live out their inner need now that they would have never been able to do at the very beginning of the movie.
I would also add one thing, which is I think the answer to the last moment of your story should always be seated in the first moment of your story. Like, or not always, but I think that's a really tried and true approach. Like, embrace that stories are circular, and because people find that really satisfying. And you don't have to make it literal, but it has to feel like we returned home. It's like you've resolved the tension in a way that's sort of like it like, take the first shot of your movie and think about how you can make it a transformation in the last shot, right? Like, I think Parasite does this extremely well, where we begin in the shitty apartment and we end in the shitty apartment, but at the end he's determined but also crushed and alone. Where in the beginning he's lackadaisical and directionless, but with his family, right? Like, and the character arc there is very simple, very similar. Sort of like, his whole thing is like, do I follow a plan and work in the system, in the capitalist world order system, or, you know, live without a plan like my father, because you'll always be disappointed. If you live without a plan, you'll never be disappointed, right? So his whole thing is he's decided on a plan, even if it's ironic. So I think actually a lot of great endings have ironic like aspects to them. I don't mean like ironic in the sense of disingenuous. I mean in the sense of like, it's the same elements from a different angle that seem inevitable.
It's
Sorry, that was word vomiting again.
No, it wasn't. I mean, it's like, to articulate it and like to give an example, it's like before the beginning of the movie, the little kid who's going to be the star of this journey is going up to try to like open this door that is going to be a good opportunity for them or something like that. Like they want to go to gymnastics and this is the door to the gymnastics place, but they don't have enough confidence to do it. And then they go through this whole journey, they achieve their inner need of like gaining confidence, and then the movie ends with them going and being like, yeah, and opening the door and going inside. Like that kind of circular beginning and ending thing. And I think that I mean, there's obviously much more subtle versions of that, and that's just made up out of thin air. But that kind of thing, like where we see the thing, something that they want in the very beginning, stopped by their flaw. And then in the end, we see them get it because they've now achieved their inner need. And it could also just be, it doesn't necessarily have to be something they want. It could be like the business person getting an invitation to family Christmas, and they're like, no, and like throw the card away. And at the end, we see them, you know, showing up to family Christmas or something like that, or like pulling the card out of the trash. It's like, it's that kind of thing where we get to see like, oh, they have definitely changed because we have been here before and we know what they would have done, and now we're going to do something different.
I have two examples. One of a film that has no resolution or has a resolution that's literally 30 seconds, and one with a 30-minute resolution.
Oh God, Adam. Lord of the Rings.
No, just showing people, like literally, it's 30 minutes of resolution. But no, let's go to the Whiplash first. Just the last page of Whiplash.
It's Lord of the Rings 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, and also the reason why this is so long is because it's 3 movies of resolution, right? So it's like, and the one thing I want to talk about is if you have a 9-hour story and you only give people 1 minute of resolution, they will be disappointed. Like, I think there's a proportional element to that. Like, the longer the story, the more resolution you want to give, because you want people to say goodbye to characters. You want people to, if you only have a 90-minute movie, your resolution should be short. Don't overstay your welcome, because people don't really care about the characters. Like, they care in like a small way, but like they won't care the way a long-standing television series or something. You know, if you spend 20 hours with characters, if you oh yeah, we could talk about a film with no happy endings as well.
Oh yeah, it certainly does not need to be happy.
Oh yeah, we're not talking about anything like.
Yeah,
we just mean a resolution of the flaw and inner need and returning to the normal world change. That doesn't have to be happy. I think The Godfather is a great example of that.
So that's something that maybe I will pull up this real briefly again, the Tentpole Document. This is something that we believe in really strongly, which is a lot of these words we use because they're the most common words to talk about the things we're talking about. We want to give you the language that's going to be used most commonly if you're going in, like meeting with producers and meeting with other writers and things. People are really familiar with these terms. But we very intentionally do not ascribe any kind of positive or negative charge to any of these words. And so this works for movies that are tragedies. This works for movies that are anti-hero journeys where people end up worse than what they started. It's just that then in an anti-hero movie where someone's going to descend, you start out with a positive flaw and then a negative inner need. So, you know, Walter White might have a positive flaw of he still cares about his family and what I don't actually remember how Breaking Bad ends, to be honest with you. But you know what I mean? Like, he has like a Godfather's a better example. Kate, that isn't me, or whatever, right?
Yeah. Then, that's my family. And then he ends the movie by lying to her.
Mm-hmm.
To her
and
face.
Shutting the door.
And then shutting the door on her as he gets also the great detail about that film is the people come up to him to kiss his ring and stuff, 3 guys, and she's looking in, they close the door. She has this conversation with him. And we never see those 3 guys until they walk up from her view. So like those 3 guys were in the room the whole time in that conversation. It doesn't matter, but I just love that detail. What is a positive flaw? It could be that you like
be the Godfather guy saying that, you know, no, my family is into this mafia business, but I'm not.
He's honest and wants to live. His flaw could be that he's honest and wants to live a straight life, right? Like he doesn't want to be part of his family business. And through the story, he has to lie and kill people to protect his family. And he becomes more and more, he becomes his father, but worse. So his inner need was to embrace dishonesty and become his father. His flaw was he's not his father, and his inner need is to become his father.
And so the thing is that we call it like a positive flaw just to help emphasize the fact that, remember,
like a positive charge.
Yeah, like a positive charge, right? So remember that the flaw is the characteristic that is stopping the protagonist from achieving whatever they internally want or will want by the end of the film. And so the flaw is going to present obstacles for our protagonist along the way. The choices that they're going to have to make are going to butt up against the flaw and challenge them because we're changing them, right? So in order to change someone, you have to make their flaw a problem throughout the entire story. And so in this case, his positive flaw of him being an honest man is constantly being challenged throughout the movie and creating problems for him.
Yeah.
So that in the end, he can change and embrace his inner need, which in this case, most people would morally consider negative. We just call it.
Yeah. There's also a lot of like variety and messiness when we talk about these things, right? Like what we're talking about is just a system. It's an engine to achieve stories. Yeah, it's hard to think of inner need as something evil. Yeah, because that's our framework for understanding the world, right? Like we use stories to teach people lessons about the world, and very often, it's much rarer to experience stories about antiheroes. Basically, I think like so these terms become like synonymous with the norm.
Yeah,
it's just but this is an engine. You can get whatever. It's more of an engine to create dynamic change, right? Like that's what this Tentpole is, and you just need to change the ingredients you put in to get different results.
Mm-hmm. So positive flaws and all these like negative inner needs and things like that. I mean, there's a reason why anti-heroes are not our most common hero in stories, right? Those could be that's like a very specific type of movie that you're telling about someone by our moral standards getting worse or descending, right?
Just take a positive value and make it a flaw. That's how you do it, right? But it has to be connected to the story you want to tell too, right? Like if you want to explore a deeply flawed person, it's more dynamic and compelling to focus on how they get worse, right? So focus on a positive characteristic and start there and like see how they lose it through the story. So their inner need is obtaining a negative characteristic. And when I mean negative, I just mean like our moral projection onto whatever the value is. I also think that it's better to think of these things as really specific. Like a flaw could be, I would never kill anybody, even for my family. And the inner need would be, I would kill for my family.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which, like that's when you get specific like that, that's when you get good results.
Yeah, it kind of, again, like I was thinking about like Dexter and Barry and things like that, where the protagonist is a serial killer and whether they have to like get worse or better, depends. Like Dexter will only I can't remember how that show is set up too much, but like a version could be like his flaw is that he will only kill people who deserve it. And then if that was going to be an anti-hero journey, then it would be his inner need is, I'm going to kill whoever I don't like. They don't need to deserve it. Anti-heroes are tough to write for that very reason. But if you don't, thinking about it in this way puts you inside the protagonist's head. That's how come I don't want to change the work. That's how come I don't want to change flaw and inner need into something that's more neutral. I want to think about it as a flaw and inner need because that is how your protagonist is thinking about it. That is how your protagonist
have to think from their point of view, right? Like a protagonist, if they go through an adventure and they learn something and they grow and they change, even if it's a direction we find morally reprehensible, it's still growth from their point of view. It's still change from their point of view. Like so these terms are subjective to the story you're telling, I guess.
Yeah, our Tentpole Document has always been very, very centered on the protagonist experience. And this is just like another one of those ways that shows up. So for what's his name in The Godfather?
Michael.
The fact that he wants to be honest. Wow, my dog. Hang on. The fact that he wants to be honest is a flaw for him. You should talk while she barks this.
Yeah, I don't know. No worries. He wants to. So in the first time we meet him, he's talking to his significant other, Kay, and he tells her about a story about how a family member or an associate of the family like nearly kills somebody viciously, and she's horrified. And he's like telling her all the information. He's telling her how it really is, and he says, "That's my family. That's not me." And he ends by lying to her that he killed somebody, his brother-in-law, and hiding his own viciousness. It's very dynamic and compelling. Also, I think one of the reasons why it's hard for people is because it forces you to make complex characters. Right? You can't do an anti-hero without really thinking about morality and thinking about the values of the characters.
I want to pull this up real quick. For sure, regarding inner need being a bad or evil thing, stuff is hard. Perhaps it could also be a question of framing. The action could be morally reprehensible, but it could also be courageous. Exactly. I think that's really important because, again, remember, it's not... This is a character who's not you, and it's their journey. And I think that, actors talk about this all the time. It's like they have to find a way to empathize with their role or they can't do it. I know that was a big complaint of Emilia Clarke when Dany went off the rails in Game of Thrones, was that up until the ending got rushed, she could say, like, yeah, she's doing some pretty freaking reprehensible things. Like, she's making some choices that are not nice. And then when we jump to going from choices that aren't nice to just like massacring an entire city of innocents, Emilia Clarke was like, I can't empathize. I have not been given enough material to understand this point of view. So it's sort of similar with us as writers. In order to write a character well, we need to be able to empathize with their point of view, even if it's not something that we would ever do ourselves. Like, we need to be able to understand why they might choose to do that. And I think that helps.
Yeah. Also, what do I think of the ending of Gone Girl? I don't want to spoil it because Alexie hasn't seen it, and she would love it.
I'll plug my ears. Talk about it and wait.
It's great. It's great, and she's changed. Both of the status quo of the marriage is what's transformed, right? Like you've returned to the beginning shot. It's even the same shot of her face looking up at him, but the dynamic and the lighting and everything has changed. Like, they're back to where they were, but they really know each other's dark secrets, and it's really fucked up, and it's great. I won't say anything more, but I thought it was great. You would love it. It's by Gillian Flynn and David Fincher, and it's really, I think, the best of both of them. Like, it's the best kind of David Fincher movie. It's one of, and I think it's my favorite script of hers. It's really good. When she wrote the book, so.
Did you want to look at Whiplash?
Oh yeah. So let's go to the cues on the final note. This is the final fight. This is the unexpected success right here. We're deep in the final fight. Like up this moment of, so in the film, it's all about, we open on him playing drums and he gets judged by Fletcher, except it's in a practice room, and he gets eviscerated for playing poorly and apparently blows his shot at joining his prestigious band. And this last scene is him in concert playing a very difficult piece and doing this amazing drum solo. And this is a moment where Fletcher is now seeing him with awe and respect for his ability. The emotional undercurrent of this, if you've seen the movie, is that he's destroyed himself emotionally to get here. And the whole story is his flaw. This is a film where with a positive flaw, in my opinion. The inner need. So the dramatic question of the film is greatness worth destroying yourself for and sacrificing yourself? And his inner need in the story is, yes, I will destroy myself for greatness. And the flaw is, maybe I can balance my life. It's more moderation. It's more not destroying yourself for art. But if you go to the last page.
Well, so I think that the context, I think, is that didn't he go on the stage, fail, went to talk with his dad, and then decided to leave his dad to go back on stage and deal with the abuse. Yeah.
Yes.
His dad was
the false mentor.
Because he wanted him to keep his flaw, which was that he wasn't going to give up everything for drumming. But the journey he's on, his inner need is to sacrifice everything else and destroy himself to be the best drummer ever. So in that sense, the father was the false mentor. Where did you want to start?
Last page.
It is so dense.
But also, this is like, it's all action. This is Also, I think they earn it. Like, most of the script is very well balanced and clean.
Yeah.
Go to the bottom of the last page. So he's already won. This is the unexpected success has already happened. The cue's the final note. Is from that moment on, we get like a 15-second resolution. And it's all how it's played. This is something that the director had to execute, and because the director wrote this, it's very specific. Like, this is an example where like there's almost no resolution. The resolution is tied to the unexpected success of the final fight. The whole band roars it out, horns hitting their highest Cs, and Andrew rolling around his drum set like a madman, cymbals and snares and toms, and the entire apparatus about to burst as we dive in close to him. His instrument, his sticks, his face, all sweat and eyes about to pop. The next Buddy Rich, the next Charlie Parker, Fletcher's only Charlie Parker, decking the stage with a climactic clash of cymbals, right as on that very last hit, we smash cut to black at the end. Right? It's just this moment of joy and catharsis of, I did it, I've achieved greatness. The implication is, at what cost?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This isn't really, this is one like where we don't necessarily have much of a resolution.
No, it's just a brief, but it feels complete. Like, I love that they cut it. Like, it's earned for me.
Because he did enough, and then he kept pushing it, and that kind of shift from like when it became enough to when he kept pushing it further was kind of the transition from the end of the final fight into the resolution, because we went from him achieving the goal to now we're going to show him what his life is from here forward, which is just completely destroying himself for this.
Also, it's all downhill from here, right? If we show a scene after this, it will completely deflate the high of, oh my God, a movie, catharsis, he did it. If we actually show what really happens after this, it's not good.
No.
It's not good. He's not going to be like having a good time with his dad. He's not going to be having a good time. There's no bridge in the movie he hasn't burned. Right. So if we actually show, so this ending, by withholding a resolution scene, really, it's specific to the choice of the character arc in the story situation. It's a great script. I keep recommending it, but it's a great script.
It's sort of like, I mean, imagine what happens after this.
This is like it's a thriller about drumming.
It is so good. It is very good. It is very well written, and the writer knew, and I don't know if the writer drums, but they certainly knew enough about drumming. Yeah.
This was he had written a few like kind of generic thriller horror movies for money, and this was kind of like, he wrote this just as a writing sample to get more work, and he was just like, I'm going to write something super personal that probably won't get made, and it was his breakthrough, which is
that tends to be the ones that help people break through, though, is their effort scripts, right?
Yeah. Jong Boon-cho, Jong, Parasite director. Sorry, fucking up his name because I'm having an aneurysm. But he had this great quote, which is, "The most personal is the most artistic." Bong Joon-ho. I got it the other wrong. I'm so sorry.
I was just pulling it up so we have it right.
Having an aneurysm. Bong Joon-ho. Great
and
movie.
So actually, this is going to transition really nice into what we're talking about. I believe the week after next, because me and Carl are super duper busy next week, but we'll have to talk about it. It's either going to be this next Friday or the one after. We're talking about portfolios, like writing samples, what kind of things you need to start taking writing meetings. How many scripts do you need to have? How many ideas do you need to go into the meeting with? Like, what about TV? How is that different than if you're trying to become a feature writer? We're going to talk about all that kind of stuff.
What to say in a meeting, how to pivot if your expectation of what the meeting was supposed to be is different than the meeting is, which happens a lot. And
if you go in and you think it's a chat, turns out it's a pitch meeting. How do you handle that?
That's why you should always have a pitch in your back pocket.
That is the worst. We'll talk about that.
Let's go to Lord of the Rings really quickly. We don't have to read anything. I just want to show how much resolution there is. Go to the last page. This is like the 152 pages, but like this ended up being a 4-hour movie. Three almost 4 hours. So this is one of the most classic hero's journeys in the sense of it begins in the Shire with innocence and it returns to the Shire with knowledge, and things will never be the same. And the whole idea that Frodo has to go on a boat to the Grey Havens because he can no longer even enjoy the home they've made for themselves. So it's a whole thing about Frodo sort of voiceover to Sam as Sam goes back to his little hobbit hole, where he says, "You can't always be torn in two. You have to be one and whole for many years. You have so much to enjoy, to be, and to do, because Sam, your part of the journey goes on." Anyway, yada, yada, yada. But like the whole point is it's kind of bittersweet because Frodo had that innocence. Frodo was whole in the beginning when we first met him, and he was torn in two and couldn't actually enjoy home. It's kind of like a little before there was much knowledge about PTSD. Frodo had PTSD and couldn't handle it. It's about people when you return from war, when you return from darkness, not being able to actually enjoy life. And also, this is only one of possibly 3 endings. So let's go up to another ending, the scene before. Let's keep going. I need to look at the script. Sorry.
My God. Oh, here is this one, the Grey Havens.
Yeah, that's it. Could have ended there with the ships sailing away. It's saying goodbye as Frodo actually leaves, and they all hold each other, they kiss each other, and embrace. Gandalf is leaving, Bilbo's leaving, and saying goodbye, and the age of the elves is over. And it's sort of like more of a macro level. Like it keeps going more and more personal types of endings. Power of the Three Rings is ended. Time for Dominion of Man to go. But it's like a beautiful.
That's a pretty explicit. This movie is over.
Oh yeah. But we have a scene after it, right? Where Sam even going. Like the joke is like the joke is for the people who don't give a shit about Lord of the Rings. It's been, God, when would the movie fucking end? Just when I thought it was going to black, another scene comes up. It's like literally 35 minutes of endings. But if you go into the scene before this. Yeah, Alexie's never seen this, by the way. So she's watched 3/4 of the first one. So this is so yeah, not that one.
Is it higher?
Oh, that's all. That's all set up. Too. Yep, another dissolve.
What are they doing?
Yeah, so this is a scene where Frodo had finally finished the book. That the conceit of the book is that the Lord of the Rings is actually a book, the Red Book of Westmarch, which is the collection of Bilbo's writing and his own, and the whole. That's what you're reading, right? The epistolary sort of element. But
so is this dissolved to the next ending?
Yeah, this is probably the second. This is the third to last ending. We're only halfway through the endings, but I'm going to go and end with where Miyazaki would have ended the movie. Let's go up.
I'm looking for those.
This is really funny because this is the definitive way for Alexie to experience Lord of the Rings. Just sort of think, God, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Aragorn sings. So they have a whole political thing where Aragorn's wedding, where finally, this is where most movies probably would have ended, where
they're clapping for their king.
Everybody's together. It's the time of the new king, time of the new era, and it ends with Aragorn sings a song, and everybody's in slow motion, having a great time, and it ends with he bows to the hobbits, and everybody sort of honors them as being like, yes, my friends, you bow to no one. It's a great scene. Music swells, and everybody looks, and then it cuts. They go to the Shire. And before that, there's another ending. Oh yeah, keeps going.
What is this?
So this is the actual end. This is where Miyazaki would have ended the movie. So this is the final fight right here.
All this intercutting.
Yeah, so you skipped the ending.
I did?
Yeah. We're in final fight right now.
Where do we go? Tell me
after
when.
Crack of Doom. Keep going.
Falls to the ground.
This is funny.
The Crack of Doom, precious, precious. Gandalf in despair. Give me your hand. Take my hand. No! Don't you let go. Don't let go. Reach. Are we at the ending yet?
This is no, so they haven't destroyed the ring yet. Now they've now this is the unexpected success right here, where
it's gone. It's done.
Yep. So this is the scene where Miyazaki would have ended it, right? So they're on the edge of a volcano, and the volcano is erupting, and Sauron's destroyed, and all the armies have dissipated, and it looks like they're going to die of like fucking exhaustion and being consumed by the lava, and and they sort of have a moment where this is the first time Frodo can see the Shire and stuff. It's great. Sorry, I'm spoiling Lord of the Rings for you. My point is,
Brandywine River, Bag End, Gandalf fireworks, light of the party tree. Rosie Cotton dancing. She had ribbons in her hair. If I was ever to marry someone, it would have been her. It would have been her.
Frodo glances at Sam. He is weeping. Close on Frodo, wrapping an arm around Sam's shoulder. I'm glad to be with you, Samwise Gamgee, here at the end of all things. And two tiny hobbits waiting to die amid a cataclysmic landscape. Lava erupts around them, fireballs rain down from the sky. We slowly fade to black. Fade up. And then the eagles come and save them. But the joke is, Alexie, that a lot of filmmakers would have ended the movie there. He's like, well, they solved the problem. Yeah, they're going to die on the mountain top, but it is what it is.
But instead
they get saved by the eagles, which is a Deus Ex Machina. Totally is.
Do we even know the eagle?
And the book.
Do we know the eagle at least?
Yes.
Okay, as long as we know
it was
the eagle.
Or as a thing that was possible, and the eagles did come to save Gandalf earlier, so it was seeded in there, but it's kind of a little bit of a,
never ends.
But the joke, Alexie, not the joke, but the funny thing is, guess where in the book this scene happens? Halfway point. So the conflict completely ends at halfway point. And in the book, they go back to the Shire, and Saruman was there, and he fucked shit up, and he turned it into like an industrial wasteland, and like got the hot and totally ruined the purity of the Shire, and had them and like started like ruining shit. And they had to come back to their home, but it's like was spoiled by war. This whole thing of like, oh, innocence is really lost, sort of thing. It's really depressing. Yeah,
that should have been a separate book. I will tell you.
Well, no. It's well, the whole story works. It does. It's just not.
I believe it. I mean, clearly,
it does work. If you're reading it, it works in context. It's not a traditional choice, for sure. But we've gone on a whole tangent. I'm sorry. That my point was to sort of say that this is a 9-hour story, and you want to give a lot of space to resolve it proportionally, right? If you have 9 hours of story and then you end like with a 4-minute scene, people are going to be pissed off. And this movie if you gave a shit, yeah, the return of the ending. But if you gave a shit, you wanted it. Like this won like 11 Oscars, has the record for right because people were so into it at that point, you know, right? Like you can get away with a lot, but if it was a 90-minute rom-com and you showed 30 minutes of endings, people would be pissed off because it's not proportionate to like the amount of investment. So that's
I think I saw a movie recently that felt like that. That felt like, oh, it was like an old cartoon I was watching for writing assignment, where it was like, this movie could have ended here. We are halfway through the film. Yeah.
Also, another point I'd make is you want all the sweetness in endings because it was literally 2 hours of battles and despair and people freaking out. So like, if you're watching in theater, like you watch 2 hours of battles and people screaming and like Frodo being dehydrated and like dying inside, you want to see everybody happy for a while.
Fair.
Yeah. And this was Alexie's Lord of the Rings experience because she will never watch this. And she will never... although you would really like it if you discovered it on your own. If you discovered it on your own, you would have loved it.
I watched it in Spanish when I was younger. And
that counts.
And so I know what happened. I guess it's like I can't connect to any of the quotes because I didn't hear it in English. I'm just like, sure. I don't know. It's weird.
It's all subjective.
My brain just doesn't work that way. But yeah.
Let's go back to the subject matter and the Tentpole.
Let's give some final tips on how to handle resolution based on everything that we have seen today.
I think a great approach is to really be thoughtful about the first shot of your movie, the first moments. And it doesn't have to be literally the first moments. It has to be the first moments we meet your protagonist. Like whether it's the choices the type of choices they're making, the type of emotional environment, literally, or even physically where they are, setting, character, flaw, whatever, all of the ingredients that make up the first moments we meet your character, source that for your resolution and really think about how you can make it feel, make your story feel circular in a way that's surprising, right? Like that's the contradiction. The paradox is, how do you make something surprising but inevitable? That's everybody says the best endings are surprising but inevitable. But if it's inevitable, how the fuck is it surprising? Well, that's up to you to be clever, right? Like it's the magic trick.
And I think that a lot of one way to achieve the magic trick is doing exactly what Adam said, is a circular beginning and ending, because then you're like, oh, that was inevitable. Yeah. And then just, think about a way that...
to make it surprising.
Yeah, to make it surprising. Like, how can they, like, there's obviously open the door, don't open the door. Is there another version of that is available to you? Go around the door. I don't know. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like...
Because you don't want the low-hanging fruit idea necessarily, right? Like, it's always cloying and saccharine to overdo an ending, to like have too much. And so much of too much and saccharine has to do with you're just not being surprising in a good way, right? Like in a way that's true to the characters. Like, yeah. I love the Juno actually has a great resolution. I was
about to say that. Yeah.
Oh, where they sing the song together.
Yep. They sit outside and they're singing their cute little song. There's a lot of front porch sitting, pulling away slowly endings in this world. That's what Winter's Bone does too. They like save the thing, and then now the kid and her are sitting. The kids and her are sitting on the front porch. Like the kid picks up a guitar and doesn't know how to do it, but we pan back, and then that's the movie. Same thing with Juno. They're sitting out front playing guitar, singing, really really cute. Pan out. End of movie. The guys, Carl Fredricksen and Russell sitting on the curb watching cars. Pan out. End of movie. People love doing that shit. Just have them sitting, just like leave them slowly in this cute moment of their new life and then go away. I think that is one of the most cliche ones, but it works. I mean, cliches tend to become cliches because they were effective for a long time.
Right. But it is up to you to acknowledge cliches and to move past them if possible, you know?
Mhm.
And, you know, cliches are only bad when the audience is ahead of you and you have no surprise.
Bookends. Yes. Yeah, that's another way to think about circular beginning and endings, is that you have, you know, your two bookends, beginning and end, and they're both connected to each other, but it's just helpful to contain your story.
Yeah, I'm looking at some example, Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one. At the end, he's singing the song
Yo ho.
Pirate's Life for Me. Like that's the last moment of that's the last
People
shot
love
of
singing
the
on the dolly back, you know?
But it's also the wait, do they open on this? Let me look at the beginning. Because if they open on the song, that's kind of fun because the song is in the theme ride. It's one of the rare. Yeah. It opens with Elizabeth singing yo yo ho yo 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 ho
Yo ho yo ho
yo ho, and it ends with Jack Sparrow singing it, but she's singing it from a place of aspiration of, oh, I wish I could have adventure, and he's singing it from a place of I am adventure, baby. Let's have another one. And they're on this. Not the same ship because she's on the Navy ship that gets hijacked in the beginning. God, why do I know that movie so well? But it's a great. The Curse of Black Pearl is a great movie.
I love that movie. Yes,
that's a great. All the other ones are kind of diminishing returns.
Keira Knightley is a freaking baby. I'm like, what?
Well, she was like 20 years old or something. Like
she was like 16 or something.
No,
she was. She was 16. Very young. Yes,
she wasn't a minor on that. Because that would be creepy. I don't think she was.
You think we don't do that already?
I don't think that happened. I think she was very young. But I don't think she was 16.
I'm gonna find out for us right now.
I don't think she was.
Who votes with me? Who thinks I'm right?
This is a creepy conversational. This is not the book.
I remember being surprised.
Really? Wow. Well, anyway, the resolution.
Yeah. She was 17 or 18.
That was a big. Yeah. Well, anyway, the resolution is that they return to the song, and the kind of cutesy audience wink, wink, nudge, nudge is that the song is part of the famous theme park that everybody, you know, not everybody, but everybody's been to Disneyland or Disney World vaguely knows. Also, I think that's so funny that they took an amusement park and made a movie franchise out of it. Like that's so.
They did great. They did great with it.
Yeah, they did.
I'm right, because they wouldn't have shot when it came out. They were shooting way before. Then they had to do special effects and stuff. Yeah, she was like 16, 17 when they shot it. Fun facts with Alexie.
Interesting.
Coming at me about my IMDb trivia. I know my trivia.
As that is on that note. Oh, 18. Theo says 18. I mean,
that's when it came out.
It's still a baby.
That's when it came out. I think she was shooting younger, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think they
would be a new experience for me, and I'd be glad to have it.
You have to deal with child labor laws.
Yeah.
For minors, and I don't think they would have wanted to deal with that. Probably.
Maybe.
Doesn't matter. I don't really care.
Much younger than Johnny Depp.
Is this the resolution you want to end this episode on?
That sounds great. Actually, no.
So we're going to take next coffee class off. So we're going to come back the following week.
And that's all about your portfolio.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that stuff. Something people should want to at least have some basic knowledge of or awareness of.
Mm-hmm. So we're excited about that. All right. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Goodbye.